Hi, Michael Brauer, record mixer and Antelope user pretty much every day. Started off when I met Igor at an AES show. And they said, hey, you should check out this clock. And I'm like, clock? Who cares about a clock? Realize that clock's an important thing. I've got the clock, which syncs everything I'm doing, makes it sound great. I use their plugins. I use their converters. You know, pretty much use a lot of Antelope on my records, and it sounds good. So, what do we got here? I got my mastering A to D, D to A converter. That's the Eclipse. And then my new two favorite toys right here, the Orion 32 HDs. This is what drives my hardware plugins. These babies are amazing. They're great. That's all I need in this room. And then it's all connected in the other room to my Antelope 10MX and Trinity. And I've got also the converter, the Pure2 in my other room. I mean, you know, I'm pretty much a big fan of Antelope. I've been using Antelope products since I first met Igor, I think 8 years ago. So it's been part of my arsenal ever since. I had originally in this room the older model of the Orions, and we decided to upgrade for a couple reasons. One, because it's sonically better, and two, we can use hardware inserts without any kind of a time delay. How they work, I have no idea. How they sound, I have a great idea, and they sound really good. Like any product that I have it because it sounds good and it works well for me. And Antelope is no different. I've known Marcel and Igor really from the beginning, but at the end of the day, it's how good their product is for me. You know, the clock is really untouched. There's just nothing better for me. And now with, you know, the Orions that sound great, I mean, you just can't go wrong. I haven't. And if it didn't sound good, I wouldn't be using it. It's just that simple. I'm not in here for, you know, for any other reason than I like the product. And of course, I tell all my friends about it. I think I probably had a big influence on getting many mastering engineers and pretty much all my friends to use the Antelope clock just because I started raving about it. And they're like, really, really, let me try it. And all you got to do is just listen to it and compare. If it works for you, you get it. If it doesn't, you don't. All my friends got one, so I think it speaks for itself. The latest products I got from Marcel are the FPGA plugins, hardware plugins. And it was really impressive. You know, I've got my share of plugins. I've got probably too many plugins to work with from, you know, the various companies. And so I was thinking when Marcel said, look, I've got a line, you know, you should check out, I thought, okay, you know, are you going to copy everything else that I've already done? And how will it compare? But truthfully, it's quite impressive. First of all, they didn't copy everything that's already out there. But some of the things that I do like is the Altec 436C, which I already have one that was modified, and clearly this one sounds like it was modified. Just there's something very, very musical about these plugins, along with their SSL. They've got a fair amount of compressors and EQs. I know them all. I can use them. You know, I can use them. They sound really, really warm, and very natural. I mean, that's at the end of the day. The GUI looks great, but there's also a good sound behind that GUI. When plugins first came in, it looked great, and it sounded horrible. This is far from that. I think Igor and company really worked hard to make these plugins just sound exactly like the hardware. And that's quite an accomplishment, and I've been using it on, it's almost a regular across a lot of my drums and bass and toms. I kind of start off with a default of some presets that I've made that I think will be released, and especially the piano. I've got a piano sound. The Lang PEQ EQs are amazing, really amazing. And I have a Tube 176, and this one just sounds killer. Using that and my Lang on a piano, I get that shimmering sound that really is as good, if not better, than what I can do with my real hardware. Really impressive. So I've gotten actually presets for a fair amount of instruments that I think will all be released, and you should check them out. I not only made presets to share with other users, I use them myself on records I mix every day. So I do have some go-to plugins. Again, it depends on the instrument. I don't have one plugin that I use on everything. For piano, I have a Tube 176 that goes into the Lang. I really like that. For guitars, I also have their SSL, which is really good. Let's see, what else? Oh, for bass, I like the Gyrotech X. I use that. That's for the low end of the bass. I'll have that going into an SSL and strictly for the bottom end of the bass. And then I have another one that I make for the top end of the bass. And I'll use that, the Altec and an SSL. And I'm EQing more the mid-range, like the neck. For kick, it's, simple. I use their BAE EQ. And then for the snare, I'm basically using that same thing. It's a really good sound. It's fat. It's impressive. When it breaks up in a musical way, so I can actually push it, which I like. So here's a song where I've got a few different things going on. I've got, I like the BAE, the 1084 on a kick and a snare. And this one is clearly the snare because I've got 4K, 4.8, and then the some 12 bumping up. It's not harsh, it just gives me the top end of the snare really well, and I can make it fat, clearly. That's a cool sound, I like it. This and this are my bass. What I do is I mult the bass out to 2 channels, 2 returns. And one is the neck, and this one is the low end, the bass. So the neck here, this is exactly like what I do in the analog room, where I have the Altec and I have an EQ, the SSL EQ, and I'm just taking out some of the bottom end and boosting some of the mid-range, and I just get that real neck so I can get much more articulation from the bass if I need it. And then for the bottom end, I've got a different compressor. I've got the Gyrotech, and I do the opposite here. I'm boosting some low end, and where am I? This doesn't look, oh yeah, here, look, there's some 60, but I'm taking out all the kind of the mid-range and upper mid-range. I get rid of all of that. I just want this area in here to boost. It's a cool sound. This, let's see, that would have been 9 and 10. What would have been 9 and 10? Let's see. I don't know. But what does it look like? It looks like I'm boosting some mid-range. Oh, this could have been something I'm doing on probably the drums or the overheads. This and this is a piano sound. I know that. I love this sound. I'm boosting some 75 and some 200. But I think I've got a left and a right on this, don't I? No, I don't. And this one is, I think, a different, this looks like something I might be doing for some guitars, because I'm taking out some 300, boosting some 3K. Yeah, so, you know, depends on the track, what I'm playing with. Does it need it? Does it not need it? You know, and then this really is just the different, I haven't played with this one yet, but I've had a BA6A, so I know how it sounds. I look forward to using that maybe on a bass or on a vocal, you know, whatever the BA6As are typically used for. And this is a FET A78, which I have one of these too. It'll be interesting to see how accurate it is. Again, these are new for me, so I haven't played with them yet. But I have them in here just to futz around with. And this reminds me, oh, it is, it's like 100. This is a really cool compressor, especially when you smack it around somewhere around 7 or 10 dB. The sound starts to shimmer. It's a really cool sound. Of course, this is the 160. I haven't listened to this one either. You know, everybody's got their version of this one. It'll be interesting to see how close. You know, and some of these sounds, 160s sound different depending on the unit that you buy. So, you know, did they model one that sounds great? Probably. You know, it's going to sound different than what one of the other companies have made. But 160s can be really great for that brick wall type of compression where you smack a snare on it or smack a room or guitar. A lot of good stuff. And then the 903, that's cool. I never used it much. We didn't have one at Media Sound. Oh yeah, I use this often. This is the Harrison, right? Is that Harrison or the? Yeah, it looks like the Harrison sound. Of course, this SSL 4000, and you got a choice of the 4000 with the brown buttons, or the 4000 with the orange buttons. Each one of these, the bottom end sounded different. I remember this one with the brown, that's more like the Pultec. And I think Clear Mountain had something to do with designing this one too. And I don't remember, let's see, there's one with the pink. Oh, the pink is the top end. Yeah, I don't remember these. I don't remember that sound. That's about it. You know, there's a lot of them out here. You just play with them, see which works best on what you've got it on. If it sounds good, you use it. Doesn't sound good, go to another one.